We spoke a little while ago about some tech news here. I have more tech news, but this is tech news in application here, and it's kind of amusing.
Oh, really?
It is. Now, granted, it's in the frame of the war.
Oh, okay. All right.
But this is how we've talked about how this war is being covered in a unique fashion, of course, through social media.
Right.
Well, there's a little bit more to this now. Ukrainians are using a popular Apple feature to find their devices after they were stolen by Russians.
Oh, yes!
And what it's doing is it's helping to map out their retreat in real time. Yeah, it's smart. Ukrainians have experienced loss and horror amid the tragedy that is the Russian violent invasion, the war that it is. And it has displaced many families and left heartbreaking scenes that are truly haunting to see. Thanks to social media, who sends it unfiltered. So, like I said, if you're covering this, or if you're watching this at home, the war, that is, not this show. This show's pretty horrific as it is. But if you're if you're following the stuff coming out of there in the raw feeds, just be careful what you're going to see.
Oh, yeah.
And be mindful of the Buka situation, because that's horrific. But at any rate, thefts, and the Russians are stealing shit too, right?
Yeah.
The thefts include technology allowing Ukrainians to use Apple's Find My iPhone feature to track troop movements.
I love it.
A tweet from Fanak Viachorka, who's the senior advisor to Vityana, said that Ukrainians are locating their devices on their territory of the Homiel region, Belarus, where part of the Russian army retreated. And then he posted a map. Somebody's earbuds got stolen. And they have a tracker on them.
Oh, the earbuds do too?
In the case, right?
I didn't know that. Okay.
And he said, where are my earbuds at? And went, oh, they're in Belarus. So that's where these guys...
That's where they wound up.
Yes. The replies to that tweet showed that many were shocked at how tech-savvy this response had been. Really. One person wrote in the comment of that tweet, "This reminds me of when people were discovering secret overseas military bases by watching the public data of people's Fitbits."
Oh, yeah. I remember when that was, yes.
You could usually tell where the fence lines and gate posts were, too, just from the track data.
Right.
Another person said, this is insane. War in the era of social media and advanced tech is a trip. Because
yes, it is,
It leveled the field.
It pretty much did.
On a consumer level.
Yeah. Because here we are. We got consumers tracking the Russian army.
Yeah, so in another tweet, this guy wrote, "When Russians steal your trackable devices, you can find those Russians by tracking those devices. Putin's incompetence is our ally against his evil."
Yes.
It hasn't done them any favors. Recently, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky addressed Western leaders, criticizing that he said was delayed action against Russia. Quote, "Did hundreds of our people really have to die in agony for some European leaders to finally understand that the Russian state deserves the most severe pressure?"
Yeah, see, that's my problem with all of this. There's been too much death.
There's been a lot of death, and you're dealing with an incompetent army from the Russian side, okay?
Right.
That's what they are. They're incompetent. They're fools. They're stupid, but they're very dangerous.
Yeah.
And they're murderous bastards. They're savages. They're barbarians. And now they're using, there's been a lot of reports of rape, which has always happened in war. Pretty much always, yeah. Aggressive troops tend to be rapey.
Yeah.
So that's become a bit of a problem as well. It's just pissing off these Ukrainians, and, given the right tools, it's turning into fuck around and find out.
Yeah, right.
Like what I saw with that squad of Ukrainians that put a beat down on those Russians that got trapped in that area. I mean, that's not an American style protest beating. This was probably some of the most violent hand-to-hand shit I think I have ever seen.
Really?
No weapons involved except feet and hands, and they were beating the fuck out of these people, these Russians. I mean, you could sense the aggression from the point of the Ukrainians. And they were it was like, why are you here? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah.
Now that you're here, I'm going to kill you.
Right. I count to 5 and you can leave, Or we're going to
But they couldn't get out because they were surrounded.
Right.
So I don't know what happened to those guys. The video cut off. I'm kind of glad. I probably didn't see someone's brains being splattered all over a SCOBA. So you using another thing that's being done too is certain spoils of war, if you will, that have any value to it, have smuggled on board an AirTag, so they can follow what's been stolen on their phone because it pings off of other iPhones. Everybody's carrying a freaking phone over there.
Yeah,
including the Russians.
Right. May not be their phone, but yeah, they're carrying one.
This is like a bunch of 10-year-olds in a neighborhood playing war.
Yes, it is. Only with real bullets.
With real bullets and real
explosives.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, it really kind of is.
Stolen phones, stolen earbuds, and they're tracking the movements of these troops that way. That's just astounding.
Yeah, it is.
We used to have to rely on like satellite imagery and high-flying reconnaissance aircraft.
Right, and now we're relying on the stupidity of the soldiers who stole shit.
Apple.
And Apple just putting this stuff on there. Right.
I
love it. I think it's fantastic. That's happening, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did any of them think they probably didn't go in and turn off any of that stuff? You can disable it.
Yeah, you could. But at the same time, they're not thinking like that.
I'm sure they don't think
they don't care.
Anybody's right.
And I'd be willing to bet you that what we just talked about, that whole story right there, and the incompetence of the Russian military over stolen phones being tracked, that Vladimir Putin has no idea that's even occurring.
No, I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he
has no clue that this is a thing.
They wouldn't tell him that. That's a pretty big screw up.
I would think.
And
I'm no military expert, by any means. But if I were the one in command here, I would be like catching every news source that I could.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd even trust my own military's intelligence.
Right. Yeah, I'm no military expert. I have played Risk a few times.
Yeah, that's a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a man, Putin, who is ordering an American broadcaster to be played on the routine on state media.
Right. That's disturbing.
Who's notorious for his own fake news.
Yes.
And his wanton support of a communist dictator-run regime.
Which I don't get. He really seems like he's in favor of. I think Tucker needs to move.
You can't stop him because of freedom of speech. Perfectly fine. But if Fox wants to go that route, then let the advertisers vote with their wallets.
Correct. And they will.
Eventually, when they start realizing that they're advertising to an audience that believes this stuff.
Right.
And that all of this is some sort of staged fake news type thing. They don't look at the real humanity of it. That as I mentioned earlier at the top of the show of Zelensky in Bucha, when he went into this like little small town square where they had this aid station set up and they were passing out food and stuff, and the looks of the civilians, and it's heartbreaking.
It is,
because you're seeing what these people are going through, and then they see their president who's standing there. There was no smiles. I mean, the civilians, they were smiling, and he's trying to reassure them. He's trying to do the right thing.
Right.
And there's a pretty amusing point. It's a very touching point in there with this one mother, this babushka type of broad.
Yeah.
My son wants to see you. My son wants to see you, and she said, my little boy, and out comes this like a 12-year-old kid, and he's a big fella. I mean, he's
6 feet tall,
he's a big
12 years old, right?
And Zelensky's going, that's not your little boy. What are you doing? Who is this? And he's shaking his hand, and they're all doing selfies and stuff like that. He's a famous man, but he's not being treated as a celebrity. And
no, he's being treated as a leader.
And
it's a respected leader.
It's a massive difference.
Yeah.
Than what we've seen in the past in our own country, where some of these politicians are being placed onto pedestals of worship, and it's not right.
Right.
It's sick. It really is kind of sick. And then you see a guy like Zelensky who's doing his best to hold it together.
Right.
And he's doing a fine job of it.
He's doing a really good job of it.
And when you measure the pulse of the world against this, more and more people, civilians, people like you and I, are ready to go in, send the military in at this point. I know we're not the police department of the world, and we try to maintain a certain sense of neutrality. But enough is enough. You know, how many more people have to be assassinated or executed, or the whole thing with that dog shelter? That was awful.
I couldn't look at the pictures from Bucha.
Yeah,
it was. I didn't last long looking at that story.
Right.
When I saw bodies with
hands
their hands
sticking out of the deal.
Well, that
and the painted fingernails
and the bodies laying in the street with their hands tied behind their back, and I had to turn it off. I couldn't watch.
You have to. You have to be aware of it, but you don't have to dive into it.
Right.
And and watching Zelensky deal with it. Of course, he's face to face with this, right? He's standing on the street looking at this.
Right.
He can't escape it.
No, he cannot.
And the look on his face says it all. There's that one brave. You've seen that picture now with his furrowed brow. And he looks like he hasn't
slept in like a month.
He probably hasn't.
I doubt he has. Right.
And he looks like he's going to throw up.
Yeah.
This is beyond the anger of the invasion.
Right.
This is beyond the emotional act of vitriol. This is even beyond the hatred of Vladimir Putin. It's beyond all of that. It's a hatred of the fact that he's trying so hard to get everybody to help him, and we're all just kind of standing here around with our hands in our pockets.
I know.
And go, I got a $5.
Yeah.
That's kind of what this is.
Yeah.
It's crowd-funded war, which is also a bizarre part of
that
this.
is kind of but you're right.
The West, everybody's kicking in some money. Say, here's some money. Hey, we got some planes for you. Here, we got some stingers for you. We got you some guns and bullets. And they're like, we need people.
Yeah.
We need the United States military to come in. We need NATO to step up. And they're all going, sorry, but Vlad's got nukes.
And see, that would be a problem for Ukraine, because they wouldn't just hit countries that are involved. They'd go after, or they'd nuke Ukraine and anybody else involved.
Sure.
That they could reach.
And they'd kill their own people.
Of course they would.
They don't care. They don't care. And frankly, I think it's time to we're almost there, to roll the dice. We've seen how inept the Russian military is.
Right.
Does it spread into his nuclear group? Are they just as inept? And frankly, it has happened in the past. There were people that were in command of those missiles and those nuclear bombs that said no.
No. You're right, and it could happen again.
Well, he's pushing the button, metaphorically speaking, of course, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Because the high command is going, no.
Because it's one of those buttons with 2 double A's. It's not connected to anything.
Every time he pushes it, it goes, no,
yeah,
sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for playing. We have some lovely parting gifts for you.
Yeah. I do agree with Zelensky that NATO needs to do more.
Yeah.
And people are going to go, what do you think they should do? I think they should reach out to Putin.
Boots on the ground.
They should start making a show of things.
Yeah.
And push, poke the bear with the stick.
Yeah.
Metaphorically and truly.
Because I think, well, first of all, he knew that NATO couldn't get involved in this. He would not have taken on a NATO country with the support and force of NATO behind it. Ukraine just wanted to become part of this. They weren't. Mm-hmm. It was an easy target for him.
The Russian military couldn't take over a taco truck right now.
No,
they are. No. They're pitiful.
Yeah, they really are. And part of that is because they've been lied to.
Of course they are. Yeah,
and they didn't know what they were getting into. A lot of them.
I don't think they still know what's going on.
Yeah.
Clearly.